guys, welcome to episode 14. So in the last episode I talked about website hosting and domain names. In this episode I'm going to be talking about different website and blogging tools that you can use to create your own website or blog without even knowing how to code. So let's get into it. So in this episode I'll be talking about all the different types of websites that are out there to use, different website platforms that you can use to create your website, blogging platforms, and I'll give you a little bit of the inside scoop revolving around website coding. So before you even get started with creating a website or blog, there are 4 key points that you really need to keep in mind. First off, why do you want a website? And that kind of relates to what your goals are. How much time can you dedicate to a website or to a blog? How much effort do you want to spend on it? And what is your budget? Are you aware of all of the other different kinds of costs that are involved with having a website and having a blog? Now, the reason I bring up these 4 things is because this will help you have an idea of what kind of tool you should use to create your website or your blog. So, believe it or not, there are actually a lot of different kinds of websites available out there to create. There's blogs, there's news websites, personal websites, e-commerce, landing pages, portfolios, and so much more. And a website can be any combination of these different types of things. There are also a large variety of different website platforms out there. So for us, I'm going to be talking about more of a website that may be more personal to you. So maybe it's a website that's more about your family history, or maybe it's a blog that relates to topics that you're interested in or your family history research. So I just chose 4 website platforms to go over today. There's definitely a bunch out there. You may also see these being referred to as CMSs, which are content management systems. They're basically tools that allow you to create a website or a blog without doing any kind of coding. So the 4 website platforms that you see here are Drupal, Wix, Joomla, and WordPress. Drupal is an interesting platform because it has a lot of functionality and features that you can use. Great support community. It scales very well, and it's really the best for super complex websites. On the downside of that, Drupal does have a very steep learning curve. It tends to be a little bit more developer friendly, which means that if you know how to code, it may be a little bit easier for you to understand how to use. When you do have Drupal, you do have to pay for hosting and a domain name. And knowing how to code, like I said, will help you if you do end up using Drupal. Wix is another popular website builder. It has more of a drag and drop kind of interface to design your website, so it's very user friendly. And they also have a lot of different design templates that you can use. Now, they do have a different kind of payment plan structure, so based on whatever plan you use for a Wix website determines how many of the features you have available to you. The hosting is done on their servers, and the unfortunate thing is that with a Wix website, I believe only with a free plan, you do have Wix ads on your website. And of course, if you want your own domain, like www.myfamilytree.com, you do have to pay for that separately. Joomla is another content management system or website builder. It has a good support community. It's also similar to Drupal in that it's best for more complex websites. There are a lot of resources available to learn as far as how to use Joomla in a way that works for you, but it's not so great for creating a blog. It's more for just your standard kind of run-of-the-mill, more complex website. It's also harder to extend some of the features in Joomla, and there tend to be fewer templates and fewer extensions available to help extend those features. Now, WordPress I've split into 2 different kinds of sections. So you have WordPress.com, which is hosted by WordPress, and you have WordPress.org, which is self-hosted, meaning that you would need to purchase hosting from a hosting provider to have WordPress So with WordPress.com, like I said, it's hosted by WordPress, so that means you don't have to worry about finding a hosting provider to host your website for you. Because that's the case, it's very easy to get up and running quickly. And they also have a free plan available. So they also have a stratification of different plans available for you to choose from with different limitations based on the plans, but they do have a free plan available. Now, there are quite a few cons with WordPress.com. Since they are hosted by WordPress, they have some limited customization unless you tend to pay for the more advanced features in those other plans. They have limited features and plugins, and it does cost extra for a custom domain. So if you want your own domain name, it's going to cost extra in addition to paying WordPress.com to host your website. And I know, at least for the free plans on WordPress.com, those websites do tend to include WordPress.com ads. So you can't remove those unless you get a more expensive plan. WordPress.org, on the flip side, is self-hosted, meaning it's hosted by you, so you have to have a hosting provider. It's definitely much more flexible, so you have a lot more themes available, a lot more plugins available. It still has that great user-friendly interface for helping you create your website or blog. And WordPress in general has a really great support community. So if there's ever any issues that you're running into with, say, a certain feature of WordPress, there will be someone probably who will be able to help you out on their support forums. Couple of cons, if you have WordPress.org, like I said, you have to buy your own hosting. You also have to buy your own domain name. And also, the customization often requires some coding. So you need to be able to know how to code in PHP, JavaScript, whatever, to make those customizations. WordPress also updates rather frequently. So since you're hosting it on your hosting server or with your hosting provider, you have to manage those updates on your own. As opposed to WordPress.com, since they're hosting it, they would manage those updates for you. So next we'll go ahead and move on to the blogging platforms. So again, I've chosen 4 of them. You've got Medium, Blogger, I think formerly known as Blogspot, Wix, and WordPress. So we'll start with Blogger. Blogger is very quick to set up. So you basically create an account and it's already ready to go for you to start blogging. You can, of course, make stylistic changes with the various layouts that they may have, but you're pretty much set from that point. They also automatically have Google Analytics integrated into their dashboard, which basically means that as soon as you set up your account, you can go ahead and start tracking how many people are visiting your blog. You also have the ability to use a custom domain, although it does cost extra. And you can customize the design with some coding if you need to. As far as some of the limitations of Blogger, there are some limited features. It's also owned by Google, which could be a plus or a minus depending on how you view Google. And because it's owned by Google, I'm sure some people probably remember Google+. Google+ does not exist anymore, but it was basically Google's social media network. And Google does tend to have some small projects that they create, but they quickly just kind of let go. So Blogger, since it's owned by Google, could potentially be discontinued at some point in time. So just keep that in mind. Medium is another great blogging platform because it's very quick to set up. All you do is create an account and then you just start writing. Like, you don't even need to set up a layout or a design, which could be a plus or minus for you if you really want to make it look more original and more fitting with your personality, with your brand. You can't really do that with Medium. You can also add paywalls on your post, so you can limit who can view your post based on whether or not they're going to pay a Medium to view those posts. But one of the big cons I find with Medium is that your content is hosted on Medium's website. So this is a benefit because you don't have to worry about hosting, you don't have to worry about setting up layouts or anything like that. But since your content is hosted on Medium's website, essentially they own your content. So I tend to think it's a little bit better if you have your own blog hosted on whatever server that you can actually own, so you actually own that content. Again, I'm going to split up WordPress.com and WordPress.org so you can kind of see the differences between the two. WordPress.com is very easy to get up and running quickly. It's hosted by WordPress.com. Again, they have a free plan, and the limitations are the same that we discussed before. So you get the limited customization, the limited plugins, and you have to pay extra for the custom domain. With WordPress.org, same pros and cons as before. You have more themes available, meaning that you have more stylistic choices that you can choose from without having to code. And there's more plugins available. The user-friendly interface is really great for blogging because you very quickly know, okay, I need to go here to create my post. I can schedule my posts. Everything is very clearly laid out on their interface. With Wix, you can blog with Wix. It still has the same limitations as before, so you have several free design templates. There's a drag and drop interface to design your website, but unfortunately it does include some ads and you do have to pay for a custom domain. So as I alluded to in the beginning of this presentation, I will give you guys just a little bit of a hint as far as it comes to website design coding. For those of you who are maybe interested in coding or more technically inclined, this information will be useful for you. So if you are interested in coding to help customize your website a little bit more, or you're just flat out curious, these are the programming languages I would suggest that you check out. So web design is split into two different sections essentially. So you have the front end of the website, which is more of the design and the things that you see when you're on your website browser, like Firefox or Chrome or something like that. Back end refers to the content that's in the database that connects to your website. So for the front end, programming languages that you would be interested in would be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it basically helps you create the structure of your website and helps you present that content. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and that refers to the design of your website. So the colors, it helps you solidify that layout structure, font choices, all of those things. JavaScript helps you with the more interactive elements of your website. So if you have links that change color when you hover over them, things like that. As far as the back end, PHP and MySQL are the programming languages you would want for that. MySQL is one of the database programming languages available for the web, and PHP is a pretty old programming language, but it helps you pull information from the MySQL database and present it to the front end. Now that's probably way more than you wanted to know, but this is just some information in case you guys are curious about coding. So thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you liked what you saw, definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel, Olivia Peacock. And also make some comments, give me some questions, give me some feedback, and let me know what you want to see next time. Thank you so much.